Hello, we're going to start with a quiz this morning. We're going to show you some items and you need to guess which member of the staff team they belong to. You're going to have 10 seconds for each one. So let's see what the first one is. Some joggers. And the answer is Pastor Scott. Number 2, the patched jumper. It belongs to Patch Adams Johnston. Number 3, this worn satchel. It can only be the one and only Richard Hawes. Number 4. Belongs to Jingly Jeff. And finally, a hobbit. It can only be little Liam Hayward. How did you get on? These items are unique to each person. When we hear the jingling of keys, we know that's a Jeff thing. Maybe when you think of Liam, you think of a small person like a hobbit. That's a Liam thing. Beth is going to help us to work out how this all links to what we're looking at in the Bible this morning.
In our passage today, God gives his people a way of living that is different to everything else, so that people will look on them and say, that is a God thing. That's what God's people do. God's people are to be different from the rest of the world because they live for him. In this passage, that looks like obeying God by eating the food that he says is clean and not the food that he says is unclean. But that does sound a bit strange, doesn't it? But as God's people eat, they are reminded that they have been set apart for God to be different from the rest of the world. We may not have the same food laws today, we can still eat bacon sandwiches, but he still calls us to be different. He calls us to live with him as king over every single bit of our lives, to be holy. This means we will look very different to our friends at work or at school. They aren't bothered if they're following God's rules. But the way we live our lives, we should want our friends to say, that is a God thing. They are one of God's people.